Hey there, fight fans, and welcome to the latest edition of Below the Belt Boxing. On tonight's card, will Anthony prove the critics wrong and become a three-time heavyweight champion, or will he slip on the same downward spiral as pound-for-pound king Mike Tyson? Side by side, both carved from granite and on sheer muscle mass, each one looks the part of heavyweight boxers. But in height, AJ sits almost a foot taller than Tyson's 5'10" frame. We're not here to talk about who stands a chance at the next Mr. Olympia, but compare the legacy of Mike Tyson to the current form of Anthony Joshua. On paper, they match up quite nicely. Britain's own Anthony Joshua is a two-time former unified world heavyweight champion, having held the WBA, IBF, WBO, and IBO titles twice between 2016 and 2021. At regional level, he held the British and Commonwealth heavyweight titles from 2015 to 2016. New York's baddest man Mike Tyson is also a former former unified world heavyweight champion. He was the first heavyweight boxer to simultaneously hold the WBA, WBC, and IBF titles, as well as the only heavyweight to unify them in succession. At regional level, he held the Junior Olympic and Golden Gloves of America heavyweight titles from '82 to '84. Both had a similar rise in the sport, Mike being the more active, having almost 20 fights in his first year as a pro, but compared similar in a way of sheer knockout power. Both have perfect records up until their 20th fights. 20 fights, 20 wins, 20 stoppages. This wouldn't come to an end with a loss, but just going the distance with fighters of a higher caliber. Joshua's being the former Kiwi world champion, Joey Parker, and Mike's being the hood rat gang leader, Mitch Green. Both Tyson and Joshua would claim their world titles early on in their career, Tyson notoriously being the youngest world heavyweight champion at just 20 years of age and less than 2 years as a professional fighter. Joshua picked up the belt after just 16 fights and 2 years as a professional fighter. After both fighters won their titles in faultless style, both Joshua and Tyson would go on and defend their respected belts in knockout fashion, picking up more titles and racking up names along the way. Tyson had 9 defenses, beating the likes of Tony Tucker, Larry Holmes, and Frank Bruno. Joshua would claim 6 straight defenses, again picking up more titles along the way, beating the likes of Vladimir Klitschko, Joseph Parker, and Alexander Povetkin. Both would see their title losses in shock defeats that would send waves not just around the boxing community, but the world. Tyson's title loss would come via knockout against Buster Douglas, the number 7 ranked heavyweight at the time, after knocking Douglas down in the 8th round. Going into the fight, Tyson was the undefeated and undisputed heavyweight champion of the world and was the face of boxing at the time. He held the WBC, WBA, and IBF titles, but outside of the ring battles would surface with contractual difficulties between manager Caton and promoter Don King, and Mike's departure from head coach Kevin Rooney. Fans considered this bout to be a warm-up for Tyson before meeting up with undefeated number 1 heavyweight contender Holyfield. A contribution of all these factors and a shift in focus would see Tyson lose his world titles and the biggest upset in modern boxing. Joshua's title was lost to the 25-1 underdog Andy Ruiz Jr. The Mexican won the match via technical knockout in the 7th round. The bout, like the Douglas fight, would see a Ruiz knockdown and was the biggest upset since the Mike Tyson and Buster Douglas fight. For both fighters, this wouldn't be the first time they would lose their world titles. Both Joshua and Tyson would go on to lose back-to-back fights. Tyson versus Holyfield and Joshua versus Usyk, both losing to each fighter twice. After claiming back the title, Tyson would have some success defending it against Bruce Seldon, but come up short against the real deal Evander Holyfield, being knocked out in the first fight and losing the second fight by disqualification. In an act so disgusting, Tyson would lose his boxing license for some time. Joshua, the same as Tyson, would also see just 1 title defense after winning back the title against Andy Ruiz Jr. But as Tyson did, Joshua would come up against what seemed to be an unbeatable fighter, losing back-to-back fights with Alexander Usyk.
This guy to beat me tonight, maybe I could have done better.
After the Holyfield loss, Tyson would spend almost 2 years out of the ring, but come back in winning ways, beating the South African legend Francois Botha. Joshua would not spend as long inactive, fighting U.S. world prospect Jermaine Franklin over 12 rounds in his hometown of London. Tyson once again had the opportunity to fight for a heavyweight championship in 2002 against the Man Mountain Lennox Lewis, who held the WBC, IBF, IBO, and lineal titles at the time. Tyson and promoter Don King looked to fight in Las Vegas for a more lucrative box office venue, but the Boxing Commission refused Tyson a license as he was facing possible sexual assault charges at the time. Several other states refused Tyson a license before Memphis, Tennessee would allow the fight to take place after agreeing to a fee of $12 million in hosting fee. The fight was a great financial success, grossing over $100 million worldwide. But Tyson would lose the fight via knockout and never wear the belt of world champion again. The big question is, will Anthony Joshua, the biggest name in pay-per-view right now, fight for a world title again? And if he does, who will it be against? Could we see a mega matchup with fellow Brit Tyson Fury and see the highest grossing heavyweight championship fight in boxing history? If you've enjoyed the video, be sure to give the like button a right hook. And if you would like to see more of the obscure in boxing, give the subscribe button a straight jab. Below the Belt Boxing, YouTube's newest boxing channel on the rise.